Okay, so we now proceed to the part 2 of our recorded discussion. This is already chapter 4. And chapter 4 is all about developing reading skills. So for the introduction, we have here, reading is easy and thinking is hard, but one is useless without the other. So it's only telling us that when you're reading, you should also be thinking. It means that you should also process what you're reading so that reading will not become useless. And when you read and at the same time you think, or when you read and at the same time you process what you're reading, you call that reading comprehension. Please take note of that because I included that in your examination. Now, when we are talking of reading comprehension, we have levels. We have literal, inferential, creative, critical, and valuing. And one thing about this 5 levels of reading comprehension is that when you cannot satisfy the first level, you cannot proceed to the second level. When you cannot satisfy the lower level, you cannot proceed to the higher level. Like, if you're not good at literal, then you cannot proceed at the inferential level. If you're not good at literal and inferential, you cannot proceed to creative level. So that's it about the levels of reading comprehension. Now we discuss them one by one. We have the literal level of comprehension. When we say literal level of comprehension, the understanding of ideas or facts is stated in the selection. Directly, take note of this. When we say literal, you understand the idea and facts directly stated. Nawawala kasi dyan yung word na directly, but please don't forget that directly stated. Yung hindi mo na kailangang mag-analyze, hindi mo na kailangang mag-interpret ng sobrang maraming oras because it's directly stated. It's also known as reading the lines. And it answers the question who, what, where, when. Say for example, we have there the story, The Monkey and the Turtle. Pag tinanong ko kayo, what's the title of the story? Of course, hindi ka na mag-iisip ng matagal because it's directly stated that the title is The Monkey and the Turtle. Now, if I ask you, who are the characters in the story, of course, you could say it fast, say it quick that the characters are the monkey and the turtle. Hindi mo na kailangang mag-analyze ng sobrang tagal. That's under literal comprehension. So, anong ginagawa dito? You follow the sequence, you follow the specific written or printed instruction, and then you identify significant details or facts. Say for example, tinanong ko, how many chapters are there in Noli Me Tangere? Of course, masasagot mo na agad without trying to analyze kasi nandun na siya mismo. Or when I say, where did the story happen? Hindi mo na kailangang mag-interpret pa ng sobrang tagal because the setting, the characters, the titles are directly stated there. That's literal. Okay, now we proceed to the second level. We have the inferential. Ito naman yung complete opposite of literal. Kasi when we say inferential, yung mga facts and ideas are not directly stated. Ayan, nawawala ulit yung not. Pero, ang ginagawa po natin dito, we have 3. Assumption, prediction, conclusion. Okay, here we assume, we predict, we conclude. Say for example, the first time nabasahin natin yung story ng The Monkey and the Turtle, the first time na narinig nyo yon, nung nakita nyo na magkakaroon ng race si Monkey and the Turtle, noong una nyong mabasa, sino yung akala nyo na mananalo? Of course, because of your prior knowledge na okay, mas mabilis kumilos si Monkey, that time, you predicted na ang mananalo ay si Monkey. And that's under inferential. It's not directly stated there, but you assume it because you have this background knowledge, that you have this prior knowledge na monkey is a fast-moving animal. So that is inferential. Inferential also is kapag nababasa ka ng story and then nakikita mo na dun sa story, there's this character, a certain student malapit ng exam and hindi siya nagre-review, and then kung ano-anong ginagawa niya. And then, of course, bago ka makarating doon sa ending, meron ka ng conclusion na baka this student will fail, this student will have a failing grades or low grades. So, yun yung tinatawag nating inferential. Next, we have critical. Okay, critical. Okay, come to think of it, pag naririnig natin yung word na critical, what comes into our mind? Yun, minsan 50-50 and all the rest that we associate, alert, red alert, warning, and all that. And what do we do? Okay, take note of the word careful, because under critical level of comprehension, ito na yung you need to critically and carefully, at times slowly and objectively analyze and weigh the author's intent or purpose, his point of view, his language, his style of presentation, appropriateness of devices. Ayan. So, when we are under critical level of reading comprehension, we have these 5 activities or reading skills involved. Number 1, there is we can now identify cause and effect. Wala namang story na sasabihin niya, uy, reader, ako yung cause, ako yung effect. No. Say for example, you have there the statement, the student did not review his lessons. He failed. Oh, what's the cause there and what's the effect? The cause there is the student did not review. The effect there is he obtained low grades or a failing grade. Ayan. So, wala namang statement na magsasabi ako sa inyo, ako yung cause, ako yung effect. You need to analyze. You need to carefully examine. Kaya nga that is under critical level of comprehension. Next, distinguishing facts and opinion. What's the difference between facts and opinion? When we say facts, it is universally accepted or generally accepted correct. Kapag ka-opinion, it could be right or it could be wrong. It is based on the point of view of others. Okay, so fact, say for example, kapag ka sinabi ko na yung apple ay red, that is fact. But pagka sinabi kong masarap yung apple, that could be an opinion, because pwedeng sa ibang tao, it is subjective in nature. Pwedeng sa ibang tao, hindi naman masarap yung apple. So, that's facts and opinion. Kaya mong i-distinguish yun. Kaya mo. While reading the text, ito hindi totoo. Ito opinion lang ito. Next, we have identifying similarities and differences. So, pag nagbabasa ka ng book or ng story, pwede mong sabihin, okay, itong character dito, parang kapareho niya yung character din dun sa binasa ko nung una. Itong kontrabida dito sa story na to, parang siya rin yung kontrabida dun sa isang story na nabasa ko. So, that's under critical level. Next, when we can classify things and others. So, when we say classify, you can now categorize. Lahat ng stories na binabasa ko na to, this talk about love. Lahat ng to about love. Lahat ng to ganitong structure. Kapag kaya mo nang gawin yon, you are already on the critical level. And then last one is when you can form judgment on the author's ideas. So do not be confused with the word judgment. Because when we say judgment, usually meron tayong negative attachment with the word judgment. But when you say judgment, here is that it's your ability to respond with personal judgment and ideas about the content of the textbook or material using his or her past knowledge and thoughts about the subject. Say for example, nakabasa ka ng poem, na yung poem na yun, it's very sad, the tone is sad, the mood is very sad, and then you could say, ang pangit ng literary piece na to. No, that's not the correct judgment. Because when you are already on the critical level, you try to study the background of the author. Kaya pala very sad ang atake ng writer na to sa story na to because ganito yung kanyang background. That's what we call forming judgment dito sa critical level. You do not criticize negatively, but you give your judgment based on the background of the author. Next, we have creative. Dito naman sa creative, kanina sa literal, inferential, and critical, lahat yun nanggagaling doon sa text na binabasa natin. Nandun mismo and nanggagaling sa author. But when you say creative, it's already about requiring you an imaginative mind. This level of reading cannot happen without first understanding what the writer is saying. Say for example, nabasa nyo yung story na The Monkey and the Turtle and the teacher is requiring you to answer the question, if you're going to change the title of the story, what will it be and why? Creative yun. Bakit? Because you are going to create your own title out of nothing. Take note of the word create. Another example is, say for example, you have read the story, ano pa bang story? You have read this story and then the teacher asked you a question. If you're going to change the ending, that falls under creative also because you will be the one to supply the ending of the story. Now take note of this. This is very critical because you cannot just give any ending. You cannot just give any title. One thing about giving a title or giving an ending, one thing about creating or supplying is that you should be able to fully understand the story. Baka naman give an appropriate ending to The Monkey and the Turtle. Dahil hindi mo naintindihan yung story, baka naman nung in-end mo siya, iba na yung character, Carabao na and cow or whatever's that. Kaya, sabi ko kanina, you need to satisfy first the initial levels before you can proceed to the higher levels of comprehension. So, say, if you could add one character, who will it be and why? That's also creative kasi ikaw mismo ang magbibigay, you create. Next, the last or the highest level, we have valuing. Valuing is often called reading beyond the lines. You make use of the ideas you get from the selection and apply them on situation in life similar to the situations in selection. So say for example, nagbabasa ka ng isang magazine at nakita mo nandun yung si Catherine Bernardo at ang lifestyle ni Catherine Bernardo ay umiinom siya ng 2 basong tubig na may dinikdik na bawang every morning, and then nakita mo na yung classmate mo na nakabasa ng magazine na yun, kinabukasan umiinom na rin siya ng 2 basong tubig na may dinikdik na bawang. So that is valuing. Hindi lang niya nabasa, hindi lang niya naintindihan, meron siyang life application. Another thing, nakabasa ka ng isang character, ng isang story na may character na yung bata palagi siyang nagtitipid until such time nag-iipon siya and all that, then naging millionaire siya. Then the next day, ikaw na rin, nagtitipid ka na rin. Yan. That is valuing. Kakaroon ng impact yung binabasa mo sa life mo at nai-apply mo yung mga bagay na nandoon. Okay, so during your examination, you will be identifying what levels of comprehension is being exemplified in the statements. Say for example, nandun yung tanong na, what is the title of the story? Anong level of comprehension yun? Is it literal, inferential, critical, creative, or valuing? Another, kapag sinabi ko, if you're going to change one chapter of the story, ano yun? Creative. Pero pag tinanong ko, what do you think will happen next? Anong level of comprehension yun? Of course, that is inferential. So, yun yung gagawin nyo sa examination. You're going to identify kung ano yung mga statement na sinabi ko. Do they fall under literal, inferential, critical, creative, and valuing? So, you please study them well. You please listen well and understand well my discussion. And as for listening skill, it will be true or false. So, very practical naman yung mga questions na nilagay ko doon. And it's all about listening. Say, for example, listening is a physical act. That is false already because listening is a mental act. So, your exam is something like that. And of course, I also gave there a short anecdote, a story, and then just after the story, there are questions that follow that are asking about the text that you have read. So, yun lang yung coverage ng ating examination. So, we have also here reading for information. So, under reading for information, we have several strategies. Number 1 is predict, visualize, question, connect, identify, infer, and evaluate. So, when we say predict, this is your ability to think or to guess what will happen next. So I only place here the clue word. But when you say predict, it's your ability to identify or to give detail about what will happen next. Next, when we say visualize naman, it's your ability to create mental images. It's your ability to imagine what is happening in the story, what's happening with the character, your ability to imagine the setting that is being described in the text. Next, we have question. This is a strategy that is about stopping and asking yourself questions while you are reading. So you could also try to ask yourself sometime when you are reading, naiintindihan ko ba itong binabasa ko? Something like that. Or, ano na nga bang nangyari before this chapter, before this event? Something like that. Next is connect. The clue word there is relate. So, when you say connect, this is a strategy that you use in order for you to relate what you already know to what you are currently reading. Next strategy, we have identify. You should have the ability or capacity to determine ano kayang purpose ng author. Bakit niya sinulat ito? Is it for me to be entertained? Is it for me to be educated? Something like that. And of course, in identifying, it's also your ability or it's also strategy for you to point out asan ba dito yung important details, asan ba dito yung main idea, asan ba dito yung theme ng binabasa ko. Second to the last would be infer. Infer is you give your prediction, you give your conclusion, you give your assumption based on the clues provided. Say, for example, sabi ko nga kanina, kapag nababasa nyo na yung character na isang story ay isang student, hindi naman siya nagre-review, fast approaching na yung kanilang examination. Ngayon, bago pa dumating yung ending, ikaw na mismo ay nagbibigay ng conclusion or assumption na, itong character na to will fail. And then, the last one, we have evaluate. Evaluate naman, this is a strategy that we are using. Say for example, nabasa mo pa lang yung title na The Love of My Life. Siguro love story ito. Tungkol sa marriage, siguro ito. That is evaluation. That's, you give or you form opinion about a certain text as a whole based on your ideas, experiences, or what you have read before. So, those are the strategies that are very important when you are reading. Ito yung dapat na ginagawa natin or mga skills na ina-activate natin, mga techniques na ina-activate natin when we are reading. Para naman, mas naiintindihan natin because when you say reading for information kasi, you only read for you to be entertained. You only read for you to find out a certain information, a certain concept or idea. Gusto mo lang malaman anong kahulugan nito. So, ito yung mga kailangan natin na mga strategies. Now, when we are reading for information, meron tayong tips dito. Number 1 there is read the text carefully because you are looking for information. Say for example, dosage yan, prescription yan ng doktor. Gamot yan, kailangan mong malaman anong dosage niya. You have to read the text carefully. Hindi ka pwedeng magmadali. Hindi mo pwedeng i-shortcut yung 1 to 3 without reading number 2 because your application might be wrong. Your medication might go wrong. Next, we have find and underline keywords. So, tignan po natin yung mga keywords. Think of a possible answer. Yan, bago mo pa basahin, meron ka ng initial guess. Ayan, find support for your answer. Hindi yung nakakuha ka ng isa, wala na, hindi ka na naghanap ng additional information. No, there should be supporting evidences na tama yung claim mo. Next, we have read information about keywords. And last, we have consider all possible answers. So, those are the tips in reading for information. Ayan, ulitin ko naman yung pointers po natin. Naglagay ako doon ng anecdote. You're going to read that anecdote and examine it carefully. And then, after that anecdote, there are questions after that. The answers to those questions can be found on the anecdote. So during your examination, you please try to remember everything that I have discussed here, because all the things that I discuss here, especially those matters that I emphasized, are found in your examination. So as for your output, I have already mentioned that in the first recorded discussion. So you please do it. And if you have questions, once again, you please drop them in our group chat. My dear students, this recorded discussion is purely for educational purposes. Please do not share the link to anyone which you know he or she will violate the data privacy or whatever about me. So you please have this for educational purposes only. Thank you so much. And if ever there are things that are confusing, if there are things that seem wrong or ambiguous, unclear, you please message me in our group chat or personally. Thank you so much. God bless and keep safe, my dear students.